Going right on with the fantasy videos, today we're going to do busts. Those guys that are supposed to lead you to fantasy glory, but that end up just driving you straight into the ground. Per usual, check the description for the times to talk about each of these guys, and let's start right out with a trendy bust pick, Julius Thomas. Currently ranked as the number 6 tight end and 82nd overall pick in the ESPN rankings, Thomas inked a big deal with Jacksonville following a couple tremendous seasons with Peyton Manning and co in Denver. However, this Jacksonville offense isn't quite as good as that Denver offense. Problems abound in this Jacksonville offense, chiefly headed by a flaky O-line and a struggling young Blake Bortles. In addition, Jacksonville just hasn't been a team that has featured the tight end much over the past few years, as they haven't finished outside the bottom 10 in tight end production since 2010. While some of this can be blamed on personnel, Marcedes Lewis isn't a bad player, and the bottom line is that this Jacksonville passing offense hasn't been and isn't now very good. With talented wideouts on the outside needing their fill of targets as well, and an offense that will presumably have trouble moving the ball, I struggle to see how a mid-round pick to take Thomas is justified. Moving ahead to LeSean Shady McCoy, perhaps the guy I feel strongest about on this list, and the guy that I think is most overranked. McCoy entered 2014 with some very lofty expectations, a guy that some fantasy experts lauded as the number 1 overall pick. He flopped and then some, though, during the season, though, finishing as the number 13 ranked running back in standard formats. He was then moved to Buffalo in the offseason, where he will be with a worse offense, more specifically a worse offensive line, and will have to split carries with any combination of the ageless Fred Jackson, goal line vulture Anthony Dixon, and perennial he should do something guy Bryce Brown. This all after he looked to take a step back last year and was having all kinds of trouble reaching the end zone. I would say as far away as possible. Moving on next to DeMarco Murray, the second of my trio of top running backs that I have as busts. I'm not as sour on Murray as I am on LeSean McCoy, but I'm not on board either. McCoy in 2014 was fantasy's best running back, simply put. He eclipsed 20 points in standard leagues 6 times. Crazy. Perhaps most important to Murray's success last year, however, was the stellar play of Dallas' offensive line, which was the best in the league. In the offseason, however, he was moved to Philadelphia, who was in the midst of an extremely tumultuous offseason and has a ton of moving parts, none of which that seemed beneficial to Murray. Philly's offensive line, while not bad, certainly isn't as good as Dallas' was last season, which is especially important because, well, DeMarco Murray is injury-prone. Not only that, but Philadelphia brought in talented running back Ryan Matthews in the offseason, who will undoubtedly cut into Murray's carries in a way that Joseph Randle or Lance Dunbar didn't do last season. Even his quarterback is a huge question mark, with the Eagles seemingly banking on the perpetually injured Sam Bradford to be their starter. With the offense around him being such a mystery, his injury-prone history, and his volume of work probably going down, Murray is the guy I'm steering clear from this year. Next up, let's go to Marshawn Lynch. Lynch was a guy that I was completely wrong about last year being a bust, but I'd rather get out a year too early than a year too late. You see, the main argument I made last year was workload when I came to Lynch, and I'll address that again this year. He's had 4 straight seasons of at least 300 total touches, and that's a ton of hits to take for anybody, let alone a 9-year veteran in the league that's a feature back. With a very capable backup in Robert Turbin and a high upside youngster in Kristen Michael, you'd think that at some point they'd start to wean Lynch off of as many carries as he's been getting as well. But this year also another warning sign has popped up in the form of the offensive line. They lost 2 starters, including Pro Bowl center Max Unger, and didn't do much to replace them. The Seahawks O-line is an underrated group, but without that anchor in the middle, and with some new weapons in the passing game to work with, Jimmy Graham and Tyler Lockett, I could see the run game starting to falter a little bit for the Seahawks, and I could see them have to fall back on being a little bit more of a passing team this season. Regardless, I can't see Lynch as being worth a top 5 pick this year. Next up is New England Patriots starting running back, LeGarrette Blount. He's currently ranked 63rd in ESPN standard rankings, and to take him that early is a complete waste of a pick. So, the main reason why is that this New England Patriots backfield is completely impossible to predict from week to week. Any given week, it could be a guy like James White, Jonas Gray, just anybody that they throw out there will get the touches. And so, to take a guy like Blount, who, this isn't even taking into account his personal baggage, mind you, that early is just absurd. If you want to gamble on a Patriots running back because you think there'll be a really good offense, why not take James White like 7 rounds later? I've heard a lot of good things. Low carry total when he was at Wisconsin, explosive back. Why not gamble on him like 7 rounds later? I mean, really, how much worse of a chance does he have in this backfield? Blount isn't a special back to begin with, and to not know week to week if your running back's going to get carries is a severe handicap. Steer clear. Next up is another guy's ranking that I just can't figure out. Brandon Marshall, wide receiver for the Jets. He's currently ranked at 61 in ESPN standard rankings. They do know he went to the Jets, right? Seriously, this is the Jets. No Jet should be ranked in the top 100 in terms of fantasy players, ever. It's the Jets. Come on now. The Jets, with their backfield abundance, is going to be a team that runs first anyway, and I'm not even sure he's the #1 target in this offense. I think that Eric Decker, Jay Samaro, and rookie Devin Smith will all push him for targets. Plus, he's 31. Looks like he's losing a step a little bit. The guy that won't get enough targets in a decidedly run-first offense, steer clear from Brandon Marshall this year. Alright, stick with me here as I explain my rationale for Denver quarterback Peyton Manning. Another guy that I had in my list for bust last year, and I was somewhat right in the sense that if you took him, you probably overpaid, had to draft too early for a guy that ranked 4th among quarterbacks. And this year, there's even more concerns. His ranking has dropped, but I still feel really iffy on Peyton Manning this year. Looking back on all of Manning's great seasons, he's always had tremendous personnel around him as well. Not just the wide receivers, but the O-line, the tight ends, and the running backs that have all backed him up. He's now 39, and arguably, he's playing with one of the weakest casts he played with in seasons. Yes, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are great, but he lost super athletic tight end Julius Thomas, and that offensive line is a mess right now. Ryan Clady is out for the season, and only really Luis Vasquez is a sure thing on that line, and 3 other guys are huge question marks right now. If that offensive line can't hold up, Manning's production won't either. A lot of people will still probably reach for Manning based on name recognition alone. Don't be that guy. Kind of pairing off the last guy, I'll go with Emmanuel Sanders, the wide receiver for the Broncos. Now, as I said before, Sanders is an extremely good receiver, and he broke out in a huge way last year with over 100 catches for over 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. But if Peyton Manning's production falls this year, then that of those around him will fall as well. And if you're going to spend a 3rd or 4th round pick on a #2 wide receiver in an offense, that offense better be great, like historically good. And I just don't have faith that the Broncos will be that this year. That, paired with the fact that the Broncos make heavy usage of the running back in their passing game, and the rumblings that the #3 wide receiver, Cody Latimer, will get a lot more targets this year, makes me think that Sanders will have a hefty drop-off from his 141 targets from last year. He's an extremely good wide receiver, but not worth a 3rd or 4th round pick this year. Gotta throw a defense in there, so this was a hard one for me, but I'm gonna go with the Houston Texans defense this year. The Houston Texans are as close as you're going to get to having an IDP being an entire defense. It's all about J.J. Watt in this defense, and you're really banking on him if you're going to roll the dice. This unit had some disappointing performances last year. Brian Cushing and Jadeveon Clowney were just not good last year, and Jerry Crick produced no pressure off the other side of the line. This year, the secondary is a major red flag as well, as they lost safety DJ Swearing during the offseason, which makes that a wide-open race for who's going to start. Right now they have an undrafted rookie that's projected to be the starter. And they're relying on aging corner Jonathan Joseph to be their top cover guy. Plus, in addition to all this, and maybe most importantly, they face an extremely grueling schedule this year. They got the Saints twice, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Falcons, and the Colts twice, which really kind of makes them more of a streaming defense. And if you're paying to get the Houston defense, you're not paying for a streaming defense. You're paying for a unit that's supposed to be your starter week in and week out. To me, you're just overdrafting if you take this team. There's some talented pieces, but it's a big roll of the dice. And last, let's end with a kicker. I was going back and forth on this one, but I ended up thinking I'm going to go with Matt Prater, the kicker for the Lions. I was going back between him and Connor Barth, and I ended up saying Prater for this whole reason that he's not a very accurate kicker. And the Lions offense should be pretty good, but he's not that good of a kicker, despite the fact that he's kicked in the best place to kick in the league, Denver, for 7 years of his career. He only has an 81% career field goal percentage. Seriously, you think about that thin air up in Denver, it should be super easy to kick at, and Prater still wasn't that accurate there. Last year he moved to Detroit, he wasn't that accurate then, and he's in that big clump of 10 kickers that are supposed to be taking like the 150, 160 range, and it's not worth taking him earlier than the last round. We can get a kicker in the last round that can do just as well, if not better than him. I would stay away. Plus, kicking is all matchups anyway, so just try to find guys that are going up against bad defenses. yeah, it's not really worth investing a early pick on a subpar kicker. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. My last video didn't go so well, so hopefully this one will go a bit better. Thanks for watching.